Now more of the Jeff Blair Show on Sportsnet 590, The Fan.
I mean, if you're going to play some Australian music for an Australian guy, you could have come up with Midnight Oil, Hunters and Collectors. But this works. I'm not complaining. Not complaining. How big a deal is the World Cup of Cricket? I'm glad you asked. Afghanistan played Bangladesh. And the game was, I guess, this morning. And you know it's a big deal when the U.S. Embassy in Kabul sends out a tweet congratulating you for a win, which, in fact, the U.S. Embassy in Kabul did it. Sent out a tweet at 11:15 p.m. last night, actually. Congratulations to Afghanistan for their win over Bangladesh in the Cricket World Cup. Hashtag CWC15 AFG versus BAN. Problem? The game wasn't, or the match wasn't over yet. And Bangladesh went on to win. So 40 minutes later, about an hour later, the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, which actually, give them credit for this, retweeted, premature posting, but we are still cheering for Team Afghanistan at the CWC 15. This is really a big event when you've got an embassy involved in it. Josh Mclean is host of Rogers Top Tier Cricket, which you can see Saturdays at 4 p.m. on Omni 2 and Rogers TV. You can follow him on Twitter at Josh Mclean. He's a former cricket player in Australia. Josh Mclean joins us on the Jeff Blair Show. Josh, I admit, I watch cricket. We have it on here. We've got the Indian League on every now and then. And while we're doing the show, my man Lance Armstrong, a big Kolkata fan. We watch it all the time. I don't really understand it, but it's fun. Can you explain why I would feel that way?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. It's a bit of a sport that's foreign to North America, and I don't know if it'll be foreign for long. It is growing at an alarming rate. 2.5 billion fans around the world, can't be wrong. So second biggest sport in the world at the moment, behind soccer. And it's just a growing beast. And a lot of that is driven from South Asia, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, big populations there who love their cricket, and they're so passionate about it. It's actually almost a religion there. So yeah, it's hard to describe, but when the World Cup rolls around every 4 years, it's one of these real special events that just draws people in, even if they don't like the sport of cricket. And I think that's going to be one of the lasting legacies of this World Cup, is that it's created a real interest level around cricket in areas of the world that don't usually watch cricket. And I think that's a good thing for the sport.
And, you know, Josh, one of the things, a friend of mine who has played cricket for a while and follows it and goes, every year he goes, he goes, his holiday is to go away, and he and his wife, they go to watch cricket. They pick a different country, they go to it. He's mentioned to me several times that he thinks the fact, sort of the advent of social media is really playing into this as well, because he said it is literally the type of match or the type of sport where you can watch it and you can be on Twitter. There's plenty of time to send stuff out. There's plenty of time to join the conversation with other people. And he thinks this is helping spread it, because in some ways it's almost a counterweight to the idea that we live in a real fast world where everything has to happen right away. You know, people, it's kind of you get worked up about it, but you can also take a step back, maybe sit back a little bit, watch it, you know, and follow it on Twitter and get involved in a conversation while the sport's going on.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jeff. And if we look at the social media landscape, and indeed the online landscape over the last 4 years, it's drastically changed since the 2011 World Cup. We now see Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all of these global empires have become so big, it's almost impossible to avoid the Cricket World Cup at the moment. And a lot of people, as I said earlier, in that South Asian area of the world are just hammering Twitter and Facebook about the World Cup constantly, and it's hard to escape. But yeah, it's an interesting landscape.
In conversation with Josh Mclean in the Jeff Blair Show. All right, what should we be watching for in this World Cup? Who are the countries to keep an eye on? What are the storylines?
Well, without sounding biased, Australia is the favourite, purely because it's in their own backyard. They're number one in the world, 4-time World Cup champions. They do have a couple of teams that can go close to beating them. One of those teams will be New Zealand. They are the co-hosts of this World Cup. And that's a fantastic story because they're not highly rated, but they're on a bit of a charge at the moment. They've won a lot of games recently. The other teams that we can expect to do pretty well, South Africa, are very, very strong. But unfortunately with South Africa, we tend to use the C word, and I mean the word choking with South Africa. Every World Cup, they seem to find a way to lose. They've never won this event, even though they're regularly the favourites. So they've got some mental demons to overcome. And India, of course, they're a colossus in cricket. Huge backing, both in Australia at the games as well as on television and online. And you just can't count them out because they won the last World Cup. They're the reigning champions, and they've got a couple of mega stars in their side. One of them, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, he's one of the highest paid athletes on the planet. And another young guy by the name of Virat Kohli was actually recently announced the most marketable athlete in the world. Now let's think about that. We're talking, he's up against people like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods,
Lionel Messi, yeah.
Yeah, Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo. This guy's the most marketable guy on the planet. Isn't that incredible?
One of the issues I understand that has kind of surfaced is, some of the countries that are, I don't know if I'd call them developmental countries, but countries like Scotland, Ireland, and there's a real concern in cricket that some of the countries that maybe aren't the elite level countries, that they don't get shoved aside, right? And the sort of the demand for the big ticket, the big matchups, that you still allow for some growth on the part of some of the outlying countries, if you want to call them that.
Yeah, you're right, Jeff. And recently the ICC had a bit of a shake-up, and they've shifted the power balance to the three big nations, and that's Australia, England and India. They now maintain the majority of control over world cricket. One of the concerns is that will take funds and the eyes away from the associate nations like Canada and the United States, and there is some suggestion that they may suffer under that new regime. But one thing we are seeing in this current World Cup is that the associate nations are doing pretty well for themselves. Ireland beat the West Indies, which is an incredible result, given the West Indies are 2-time world champions and a strong country in their own right. And also, we saw Scotland push New Zealand to the edge. They took 7 wickets in the second innings and did okay. And last night, Afghanistan, in their very first World Cup effort, they were okay. They were competitive against a more experienced Bangladesh. So those 4 sides, including the United Arab Emirates, which is the other associate nation, they're developing fast. The problem is they're getting more resources because they're at the top of associate cricket than countries like Canada and the US, who are sort of falling by the wayside a little bit.
Josh Mclean is host of Rogers Top Tier Cricket, Saturdays at 4 p.m. on Omni 2 and Rogers TV. Josh, thanks so much for joining us today.
Pleasure, Jeff.
Again, the World Cup of Cricket currently ongoing. That's it for the Jeff Blair Show. Hockey Central at noon is next. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.